Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. It's a new week, it's a blank canvas. It's time to tell some stories and paint some pictures. But will it be a Mona Lisa or more like a Pollock type of painting? Let's rock and roll, kids.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Well, I thought this picture was appropriate to start the show today. Jurgen Klopp and Mikel Arteta. Nobody told me it was Christmas. Did anyone tell you guys it was Christmas? An unnecessary gift handed to the team with 115 alleged charges. But I'm not going to be bitter. I'm going to dissect this with one of your show favourites. We're going to take you inside the mind of a manager. Welcome back to Squad Central, ex-Luton Town manager, Mr. Paul Buckle. Bosh!
Good afternoon, Soph. Afternoon, everybody.
You were trying to cheer me up in the green room.
Yeah, I did make you laugh.
You did make me laugh. You did.
Before we move on.
Good evening, squaddies. At ease to each and every one of you. We've given Super Kev the night off. He's resting up as he should be. But welcome all. Don't forget to hit the like button. The whole team is in the house. We've got our chief like officer. Listen to everything she says. Don't forget to hit the like button. And welcome Mark. Welcome Wesbird. Welcome everybody. Carol's in the house. Barry. Guna Russ is here. Everyone's here. Thank you so much for joining. And by the way, Paul, before we kick off talking about football, what I love about this show is how friends have been made, not only on a global level, but also back home, in our good old England. And yesterday there was a bit of a squaddy meetup, and Carol sent me this fantastic picture. Our chief like officer Tammy's in that shot, PW, meeting up with Potsy and his dad Dan, and of course Guna Russ, wearing that scarf beautifully, I may add. All of them getting together, and it's a beautiful thing to see, Paul, how football brings people from all corners of the earth together, and our club Arsenal does that in such a beautiful way as well.
Absolutely, and it's the excitement, Sophie, that it brings. One game, it is. I speak about this all the time. It doesn't matter if it's park football or if it's a Premier League. It's a beautiful game, and it will remain that way if the people above leave it alone.
Definitely. Right, we've got you here, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I want to throw at you. And I want you to take us inside the mind of the manager. Paul, I don't know, maybe, I did a show with Super Kev last week, and I wanted to allow myself to start dreaming, and I've given permission to myself to enjoy this journey and not worry so much about the destination. And why can't we dream as Arsenal fans? But the PTSD and what's happened in the past kind of prevents us from doing that. I actually thought that this season we would win the league. And one of the reasons is because I felt like the team was acting and believing like they were going to win the league. You've been at the very top. You've been there at the very dark side of football as well, where things aren't going your way. How do we go from being the team we've been to really the Bayern Munich game is where I felt the team PTSD set in, which then had a roll-on effect on the fans, to then performing at home where we have all of the advantage against an Aston Villa team that has now taken 6 points off us?
$4 million question, Sophie. Well, both obviously Arsenal and Liverpool have suffered pretty similar. I don't think both games so were gimmies. They're two very good teams that Arsenal are playing. We've always known that if you're up the top of the league, teams are going to raise their game. All right, Villa have got their own things to go for, but you know the Champions League is a different animal, as we know, we've spoken about. I don't think that was the world's worst result for Arsenal, if I'm honest. But the one at the weekend, certainly, I didn't see that coming. I think that's going to be something for Mikel to get over. He's going to have to reflect pretty quickly. And I think that's a challenge for managers. You know, we talk about reflection, or you're told to reflect. Very difficult when you've got such a short space of time to do that. You've got to pick yourself up. You have to pick the players up. You're dependent on your leaders in the team to pick up, look at what you've done brilliantly this year, be honest with each other and say in that one game what they didn't do so well, and there's a number of things they didn't do well, and get back to it, get back at it. There's no other way in football, so there's really not any time to feel sorry for yourself. They've opened the door now to City, but now there's a different pressure. You know, it's changed hands a couple of times. It was Arsenal's before the Villa game, but now it's in the hands of City. But you'd have heard a lot of people say they're comfortable with that. You know, Pep's comfortable with that. But I don't think they are the City of last year. I don't. I do think there's a hiccup in them still. And I think that Arsenal just need to get back to doing what they've been doing so well. And what was it, 14 clean sheets prior to the game? You know, because if anything, so if you don't lose that game, I mean, all professionals will tell you that. You don't lose that because Arsenal were on top for all of the first half, other than the mistake and Watkins breaking. You know, they weren't arriving at Arsenal's goal. It was Arsenal doing everything and should have scored. I mean, the same as Liverpool. There's not much else you can do as a manager when you're setting up and you get that many chances, especially I think it was Trossard's, right? I mean, that's got to go in. That's got to go in. And it's a completely different picture then. But yeah, they've got to recover quickly, and I think they will.
Help me understand this one too as a manager. There's certain teams, there's certain coaches that you play against, and they just have your number. We've really been good at, you know, justice, vengeance this season, paying teams back. We lost horribly to Aston Villa. The second half of this game felt like the West Ham and Fulham game, just no control, no tempo. Our second ball wins, actually, has been one of the best statistically in the whole of Europe this season. And we were just poor to everything. This is Mikel Arteta's third loss. I think we played Emery 4 times and he's gotten one result out of it. Is this a myth or is this a thing? And is it a thing for a manager when you go into the game? Because clearly he replaced Emery. You know, we lost horribly to him in the semi-final of the Europa League, horribly at Villa Park. Talk me through that a little bit and going into this game, him as a manager, did he overthink it? Is that possible?
Yeah, it is possible. And I think Mikel's been guilty of that before. It's just my opinion, and obviously, for what it's worth, I think he's been guilty of that. And I think that when they went away, remember when we spoke and they went away for the break, they came back and it looked like he had a real settled team. And he did. And Arsenal very, very functional with the ball and against the ball. I don't know. I don't know. Did the changes work? I mean, Havertz came from deeper on 2 or 3 occasions and got a sight of goal, but couldn't finish. There was some things that worked in the performance, Sophie. You know, I know the result is the end thing we all look at, but Arsenal did get a clear sight of the goal. And again, when you're setting your team up, certainly attacking sense, that's what you're looking for. I think it comes into it where you get to half time and it's 0-0 and you've had all the play. You might have to change the focus. The team talk becomes very different and very important. It's a very different team talk to being ahead. It's a very different team talk to being behind, right? What's needed now? I've got 15 minutes to talk to the players. What's needed? Change of personnel, change of system, knowing that Villa are going to have a time in the game. Teams always do. And when you've missed that many chances, you've certainly got to keep it tight. And my expectation was that Arsenal would. And I think that it's not just the disappointment of not scoring them goals. It was the manner that the goals went in against Arsenal, especially the first one where the two centre-backs were in the wrong position. I mean, they weren't open. They didn't know where the two strikers were. Bailey was obviously at the back, but the run across the front, which caused the problem to allow the ball to get to the back post, should have been cut out. I mean, that was like a basic, someone's got to take that front space, Soph. So, yeah, sometimes you'll get managers that have your number. I think, again, I've spoken to you many times about air miles as managers. How long's Emery been a manager? 20 years? He's had a lot of experience and he would have probably said, I would imagine, to his team, keep it tight for another 15 and the pressure will mount. The pressure will mount on Arsenal. And that's something that Arsenal have got to be able to cope with and wait for their moment. Not concede, just wait, because Liverpool have scored tons of late goals, right? So it's just having that know-how that the game's 90 plus minutes now, 90 plus 10, whatever it can be now, and trust and believe it. And maybe they just didn't have that on the day, and maybe the half-time was a critical moment that you might have got wrong.
You know, I don't want to hear this whole thing about, you know, being tired and rest. Villa had 2 less rest days than us. And Gunnar Russ just said it perfectly. They totally bossed the second half. So one of the things I wanted to get in with you a little bit is the Premier League versus the Champions League. I'm not sure Mikel has figured out how to master managing both just yet. And maybe that's because he doesn't trust his bench. It was evident, you know, didn't bring on Fabio Vieira, which seemed like an obvious substitution for Odegaard. Didn't bring on Thomas Partey. Maybe he's just still not recovered, but why is he on the bench even if he can't play 20 minutes? It just seems to me that playing Kivior against Bayern Munich, a hot pedigree team, maybe you bring in Tomiyasu for that match. Starting Trossard when he's been a super sub and has come off the bench and scored the most goals of any player in Europe off the bench. Gabriel Jesus' pedigree, so good in the Champions League, and he's been very good in the Champions League for us. It felt like, you know, Kivior has a bad game against Bayern Munich, Paul, and then he gets dropped against Aston Villa, whereas I thought maybe Kivior would have been great, especially with having to deal with some of the speed on the flanks. When Leon Bailey came on, I said in a WhatsApp group, I smell a goal here. You could just feel the fear building. Are we still naive? Is he still naive in managing those two squads, considering at this point in the season, Paul, since over the last 2 seasons, this is the fittest we've been. He has pretty much everybody available to him.
Well, I'm not so sure it's naivety. I think it might be lack of experience, for sure. Has to be. You know, he's not an experienced manager, yet he's taken Arsenal to, you know, being right there at the end of the season to win it, and right there in the Champions League. And I'd love to know where, you know, who he leans on. You know, for that moment when you got them games coming up. I mean, I know the sports science play a big part, Soph, but as you said there, I mean, tired and, you know, sports science has come into the game, right? And I've seen it. I've been part of it. I've witnessed it. I don't think it's all great. Sorry, all the sports science people out there. I don't think it's always all great, because you just said there, Villa played. What did Villa played? What was it, Thursday?
Yeah.
Right. Watkins played. You tell it and stayed on, and look at the goal in Watkins right at the end of the game, still fresh as a daisy. To score that goal, right? I think sometimes it's overplayed. I mean, City have been able to change. Pep's got the best squad in the league for several seasons to change it. Sometimes if you haven't got the trust, which you use that word, it's a big word in management. You're looking at your squad and you're thinking, he's not ready. I can't trust him because last week the way he was, right? You're never going to see that. And that's for Mikel. That's what he's going to be judged on, right? Who he chooses. But sometimes, I mean, how can you? I mean, I'm sorry. I know I don't want to go old school back in the days. Like Super Kev will tell you, tired or rested or the words you use dropped. You don't hear that no more. You never hear dropped, left out. It's always rested or, you know. So it's like, that's a mentality thing for me. I think that's a one where you're saying, I want to play. I'm sure Watkins, who's come from Exeter, by the way, and has fought all the way up. I bet he didn't want to. I bet he wasn't saying, you know, I don't want to go and play against the Arsenal on Sunday. Give me a rest. So I think there's an element here where, and I'm only shooting from the hip, where the players might need to step forward and say, no, listen, this is one for me, you know. But sometimes if they are saying that they're tired, or the sports science are playing a part in it and saying you need to rest this player, or the loads are too much, or they're going into a red zone, which is the language now, right? If you're gonna get injured, but I don't know. These are top athletes that you're looking at now with everything going for them. I just think a bit of resilience, you know, all these things that come into it to win a title, to stay the distance, you know. He seems to be able to produce it. I mean, they smashed 4 past Villa, didn't they? Not so long ago. When it matters, and is it a resilience thing? Is it a thing where you're digging in and saying, "Let's go, come on, we're right here now"? That maybe they lacked a bit of that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said, and I've been saying this to the squaddies for a couple months now, we will win and lose this title on mental. And a few of them have been saying that in the chat as well. And I thought this season would be a bit different. However, it's only one game. I know we haven't lost a game since December, and that was a pretty rough couple of weeks. We lost to West Ham, we lost to Fulham, but we haven't lost a game since December. But we lost the game that counts the most for now, and that is, you know, you've got to win your home games. If you want to win the league, you've got to win your home games. I want to get into some of the tactical side with you just a little bit. I want to bring up a picture because a lot of what I'm talking about in terms of subs and, you know, who starts, who sits. I think, you know, the starting versus subbing. I mentioned Jesus and Trossard. The player that has become exceptionally polarizing right now for Arsenal fans is Zinchenko. He came to the club, you know, and helped transform our culture, became an instant cult hero, really. Played, you know, great football. He's become like a spokesperson on the pitch, if you like, as well for Mikel Arteta. He really had a major impact, but something's gone off the rails. That inverted role is kind of crazy. And when you look at the first goal, this, I think, is why our defense hasn't been as great. I know Kivior had I know he had a bad game against Bayern Munich, but when Kivior was playing a more traditional left back role and Benjamin White was playing that inverted role on the right a little bit, there seemed to be this major stability, and a stability that grew with David Raya as well. Clean sheets, just dominant at the back. Saliba and Gabriel being touted the best centre-back partnership in all of Europe. This is the first goal. The red circle indicates Zinchenko's position, Paul. You're the manager. You've asked him to play this way. I don't know if Mikel Arteta has asked him to play right back at this point. Can you talk me through this a little bit? Because The goal comes from that far right side eventually. David Raya's put out of position by the ball, of course. Some people were blaming David Raya, and I was like, don't be daft. It's not his fault. Can you talk me through this a little bit? As a manager, is this going to absolutely drive you insane?
Yes, absolutely. The old saying, what can't speak can't lie, when you show the players. But again, to start off with, that familiarity in a back four or a back five, Sophie, is crucial, right? And you get that from playing games. You get understandings, you get, relationships against the ball, right? That's really important. All the teams that have won anything that I've been part of, back when I was a player and won promotions, you had relationships. Back four very rarely changed, right? There was always, if there was an injury, someone would come in for a bit and then that person would be back in. And there was know-how. And Arsenal were renowned for it, right? Back in the 80s, with the Dixons and the Winterburns, Adams, then where you got that stability, okay? You've got 3v3 in the box there. Then they're in awful positions. That gap's huge. And what I was saying earlier is that Gabriel and Sleep, they don't know where the striker is. At that point there, so you open up, right? And what I mean by that is you have your back to the goal, right? Unless you're going to the front post to just cut the space, which one of them should, in my opinion, because that space is inviting. Because you can see the Villa players now thinking something's happening. And Bailey actually arrives really late to the game, to this action in the game. But that there, you want, the minute there's no pressure on the ball, or that ball's going into that area, they need to know where that striker is, because he's now on what's called the blind side. He's on the blind side, and that's how he's able to. He makes a brilliant run across the front to allow the ball to get into the middle of the goal, to the back post for the tap-in, because that run from him will affect Raya. Any goalkeeper will tell you if that striker can get that run across, because Raya's thinking he's going to nick it, like a nicks across the ball, because the pace on the ball. So it can kill the keeper at that point. But it shouldn't even get there. At professional level, them defenders would have defended that loads of times in training, right? You're central, the ball's building up, they're not coming through you, they decide to go wide, you get back into the box and you have players that take the space and everybody else picks up, right? And now that's got to be a really good ball to get in there. If it's floated in, the keeper will come and take it. But that was like a free hit in across the face, and they weren't marking with the runs, and which allowed the tap in on the back post. And I've said before, I mean, I think the centre back partnership is fantastic. But if you do start messing with the outsides of it, it can affect things, because in defending, you're totally dependent as a unit. You're working together as a unit, and there's big gaps there on that side. That's not really a solid unit at that moment on that clip you just showed.
Paul, what would you do in this situation? Because a lot of the fans are saying, why change it, right? Hence my comment about, I understand mixing it up in the Champions League is a little bit different than playing in the Premier League. If you're the manager and you're coming out of this, you've lost 2-0 at home, Zinchenko's had that, I think did that badly when he came on against Bayern Munich. I don't think he played terribly when he came on. What are you doing in this instance? We've got 6 games left. We've got Bayern Munich on Wednesday. Are you benching Zinchenko now? Arteta's all about trust. How much do you trust the player when they've played so poorly? And a lot of Arsenal fans can't believe that he was on the pitch for so long.
Well, I mean, the first thing you look at is what's your best 4 available to you. You've watched every Arsenal game. What's the best 4 that you think? I'd look at them 14 clean sheets and say, who's played in them games. I know managers will change it based on opposition, I do get that, that they'll look at opposition and they analyse and, we need this or a bit more height. But Arsenal's back four with White playing at right back is worked, hasn't it? I think it's worked.
Mm-hmm.
With the ball and without the ball. I think it's been really good. So again, I mean, you tell me what on the Arsenal fans tell me favourite back four is.
For me, what has been working and where we developed a consistent competitiveness and became like a fortress at the back was, and I had to eat my words about Kivior. I'm not going to kill him for having a terrible game against Bayern Munich, and he did. But in the league, Kivior, Gabriel, Saliba and Benjamin White with David Raya behind them has been the best formula for us.
Yes.
And I think Kivior got punished for having a poor game against Bayern Munich. And I'm not sure that's the right decision. And also, I wonder, Tomiyasu probably, if super fit, is going to be the guy that comes in. But I don't know. He's been out for a long time, Paul. You're putting players on the bench, but you're also putting players on the bench to just get 20 minutes, right? Isn't that something that managers do all the time? I can't get a full 90 out of you. I can't get half hour, but if I put you on for 20 minutes, and I just felt like also the timing of some of the subs, and then the subs became a bit of panic mode for Mikel Arteta. But that, to me, is the strongest defensive back for the Arsenal. So if Tomiyasu isn't starting, he's not fully fit yet, even for 20 minutes?
I think that's the best back four. And I think the stats will prove that. You can lose your way. Again, speaking about managers, speaking about coaches, picking teams, games coming thick and fast, less time. Just bet the devil, sometimes, especially with the way Arsenal are going to score goals. All right, they didn't score the weekend, but they 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, they're going to score. And a big strength of Arsenal has been that back four, has been the goalkeeper, and has been Rice in front of it. And, you don't really want to touch that. The relationship between the right-sided centre-back and the right-back and vice versa on the other side is crucial. It's crucial because the way Arsenal play and the top teams play, so they'll go 1-for-1, right? So your right-back's getting taken on, he'll know whether Ben White's showing him inside or the line. They'll have that relationship, right? They'll probably talk about that before the game, the distances, the understandings. Okay, and on the left side will be the same in them units, and with Rice coming across. The minute you change it, you can get some good attributes that I'm changing it for this, and this. But there's trade-offs. There is always trade-offs in change, and you've got to know them. You've got to make the players aware of them, right? What might happen with a certain player's behaviours, but the defensive unit is been massive for Arsenal.
Let me ask you this too, because I don't want to bash on Zinchenko. He definitely didn't have a good game, and some of the guys in chat are saying he had to go defend the corner position wise, etc. There's lots of players all the time who are out of position, but I thought maybe a worse decision than Zinchenko at left back in that match was moving Kai Havertz from the position that he's owned and that we've seen him grow game after game, Paul, and start excelling in an Arsenal shirt. And I felt like we really lacked that physicality against a Villa defence that's pretty strong and robust. And moving Kai Havertz out of the 9 role, I didn't understand why he did that to play Trossard and Jesus in the starting 11. What's your take on Havertz, who you and I have talked about, and last time we talked about how effective he'd become, and he became quite a threat. I thought that was a big mistake.
I agree. I was speaking to Bex this morning about it, and I said, when something's working as a manager, it's golden. It's just golden because it's you just know that that's going to work in the game. You haven't really, when your team's winning, your team's functional, you don't have to change it. The skill is to leave it. The skill is to not mess with it. And I think he's messed around with it. I think that he's thought, and he's been guilty of this, maybe overthinking it, getting a touch too clever with it. But you saw the confidence that Havertz had in the game, right? He made some good runs, but they were from different areas to what he's been finishing in. Mm-hmm. And he's just had his best spell in an Arsenal shirt. And I wasn't a lover of the guy early because I said he needs to score goals and make goals, right? That's what I was with the price tag, 4 or 5 months ago. And he's just hit form and you change him. And I'll tell you what that can do to the team, if you're a manager, I've said this before, if you don't think the players are going, is he sure there? What's he done that for? They are. I don't know how many generals Mikel's got that would go, gaffer, really? Or, you might want to double think that one, or his assistants, because you need that. You need that. And when you don't only disrupt Havertz, you disrupt the rest of the team. And maybe the mentality, is affecting the mentality of the team by doing that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't. Well, look, you live and die by your decisions. It's as simple as that. I will give the credit that Havertz did. He made 2 or 3 runs in that first half from deep. He got in. If he scores, then Mikel's a genius. Maybe we're talking today that it was a great switch, but that's where you live and die by your decisions as a manager, and it didn't work.
No, it didn't work at all. And, for me, it felt like he reverted back to maybe Mikel a year and a half ago, whether it's overthinking it or thinking you're so much smarter than everybody else. I felt like that had become a square peg, round hole, the Havertz situation. Let me ask you this, Paul, because one of the things that Arsenal fans are screaming out for is a prolific striker. We've done pretty well. Look, we're 2 points behind Manchester City. There's still 6 games to go. It's not over, but it feels like it is. And it feels like it is because we were 8 points ahead last season and they caught us and we didn't win the title. Now they're 2 points ahead. What on earth makes us think that anything is going to be different? Kevin always says, get a prolific striker, someone who's going to get you 20 plus goals a season. If Arsenal had that last season and this season, are we talking now about maybe winning two titles on the trot? I mean, I may be talking out of my backside there, but...
No, you're right. Yeah. Sorry, carry on, Sophie.
No. Go on.
You're spot on. Just think of Haaland. Do you win the league if you've got Haaland up top?
I think so.
Oh, 1,000,000%. I'd love to know what the Gooners think of that. But of course you do, because look, when you've got a prolific striker, the opposition can't take their eyes off them and they have to double up on them normally. And it allows space in other places. And that's what the game's built on. In an attacking sense, they're looking for overloads, and making 20, 30 passes to get that overload. When you got someone like Haaland who can turn and go at you, and he's strong and he can score all types of goals, Haaland, right? You guaranteed it with him. You're guaranteed when the ball drops that he's going to finish. The confidence that gives to the team is unbelievable. It's something when you're playing and you're going, it's all right, keep it tight still. He'll get one. It don't matter when, he'll get one, and I do. I think if they had Kevin's right. When you're putting a team together, so for the start of the season, you're saying to yourself, right, 20 goals up top with your 9, right? If you're playing a 10 in the space, you're probably looking at 8 from them, maybe 8 to 12. You then go into your wide players. If you're playing wingers, You want 7 goals from them, right? 8 goals, assists. You're looking for someone from midfield to get your goals, centre backs, and you start to add up your goals that you need to win it, to win something, and yeah, else it's gonna, at some point it's gonna become tough, because as we know, putting the ball in the back of the net is the toughest thing to do in the game. And you need that natural finisher, especially when it gets tight. It gets to that point where 0-0 half time against Villa. You just take strength to say, keep it tight, we'll get our chance, and he'll put it away. And that's what Pep's done with Haaland. All the talks about that he doesn't do anything, in the build-up, he's not involved, all the touches, but he puts the ball in the back of the net. Kevin's right.
Yeah, Paul, that nonsense about him looking like a League Two player and all that, I just think that's been so ridiculously unfair over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, it's just total nonsense. I mean, look, I guess, Ole Watkins is a player that a lot of Arsenal fans admire, and he's also he's not a secret gooner. He grew up supporting Arsenal. But having a player like Ole Watkins, but also that's what Kai Havertz was, late goals. That's what he was doing. And in a game like this, I just don't understand why Mikel Arteta went Claudio Ranieri or Tinkery, for a match like this. Hit that like button, you guys. 220 of you in live chat across all of our social platforms right now. Paul Buckle smashing it here, giving us and taking us beyond the white lines and inside the mind of a manager. Love these conversations with him. Talk to me about this a little bit, Paul, because we keep saying about Mikel, his desire to win and how he's so ruthless and he's willing to cut players at any cost, bring players in to win. The fine margins are the difference between, winning the league and losing the league. Is it possible, would this be unfair to say at this juncture that maybe Arsenal are outgrowing certain players? Like, have we outgrown Zinchenko? I felt like a good example is maybe someone like Kieran Tierney, who, because Zinchenko's had a few bad games and we got injuries, some fans are like, bring Kieran Tierney back. Maybe fans just forgetting that Kieran Tierney kept getting injured, wasn't available, and just really helped change a culture, but didn't cut it long term. Same thing with the Guendouzi's of the world, and even Aubameyang gets cut. Is it possible that in order to get that extra inch on Manchester City, who just may even finish with more points this season than they did last season, Paul, are we outgrowing the Zinchenkos or the Jesuses of the world? Is that unfair, or am I off base here?
No, it's very important. Obviously, you live and die by the squad, Soph. I mean, Jesus, Pep let him go. You've got to remember that. I think, again, the experienced manager might be saying he's done. That's a real good point you make, when some other people can't see it and you're going to go, he's done. We've got to move him on, right? You're spotting it before that player, say you're talking about a striker, before he goes 8 games without a goal, because it's too late then. You've got to make them calls during the season, and certainly when you're recruiting for the next season, right? Because you're looking at it and saying, well, where did we lose it? Where did we slip up? How do I fix it? And I think Pep's been great at that with Haaland because a lot of people looked at that and said, well, he's not going to be in the build-up. He's not sort of like a Pep player. But I think that's Pep evolving. It's evolution. That's him evolving. That's him looking at the league. That's him saying, well, I'm a purist here, but I'm not afraid to, get it into Haaland, get crosses in, put the ball in the box, and have that person that can just put it in the back of the net. And I think as the years go by as a manager, you do learn more and more. I can tell you that for nothing. You look back sometimes and you think, oh my gosh, well, we don't make them decisions, or where did that come from? You know, what was my thought process then? And you can't beat the experience of it. And you start to understand what's needed in a season, right? You start to look at the resilience of players. You start to look at, can they stand the test of time? Because the last thing you want now is somebody feeling tired, or, you know, who was it for City? It was it was just the midfielder for City that just said he was tired. Lost his name. The big guy.
I didn't see Rodri. Rodri or De Bruyne. Yeah, okay. I didn't hear him say that.
Yeah. So I was very interested in that. I mean, obviously, I look at all the managers' interviews. So, you know, like I really do, from EFL to the Premier League, and I could see Pep's body language with that. It's like, tired. Like, really? But I think he's that great. He'll use that, you know, in a way of not losing a player, but almost saying, you know, well, have a rest then. We've got someone else. And really in these moments, finding the right things to say, upsetting them if he has to upset them. You know, he's not afraid. All this stuff that he does, you know, on the side of the pitch, which has been looked at, you know, when he's walking off the pitch and he's having a go at Grealish, or he's De Bruyne, you know, there's no doubt about it. He's the boss.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they just believe in him with what he's doing, and how, you know, the Doku thing and the Grealish thing has been sweet, because he's left Grealish out for game after game, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's been injured too, but yeah, he's definitely made Grealish earn it and work hard for it. And, you know, he was so important for them, wasn't he, towards the end of last season for that treble. You know, it's so funny you say that about, I didn't hear Rodri say that, but do you think it's easier for Pep, though, to behave that way because he's got the pedigree? He's got the silverware. Yeah. If Mikel Arteta's going on the pitch at the end of the game and he's in players' ears and stuff like that, and I mean, you know, he's taken players over to away fans to celebrate and stuff like that. But do you get away with it more because you've got the, you know, the heritage of winning?
Yeah, you do. I think you do. And again, I'm sorry to talk about myself, but if you look back when I was managing in England, there were certain things I proved I could do. I mean, I was an expert at losing the finals, but so if anyone wants to help me out with it, but I'd sort of proved in, you know, Conference and League Two that I could win games, right? And so you do get that player that looks at you with different eyes, right? Because you can back it up if you've got out of the conference or you've been in the playoff finals, and you know, you can, and it gives you confidence as a manager. So when you've won something, you know, when you win something big over a season, it's not a fluke. It's not a fluke then. So you can talk about it. You can, and I think that's a brilliant place to start, because Pep's done it all. And it's almost like, you know, if he says jump, it's how high. He's like, it doesn't. I think De Bruyne is the only one that you see questioning it, but it's sort of in a nice way when De Bruyne's doing it, that Pep will accept it. But he does have that relationship with the players, and I think that winning bit is huge part of it. So,
okay, let's. If you guys have any questions, I've been putting them up and asking on your behalf. But if there's anything that you guys want to know before we close the show in about, see, it's already 45 minutes, Paul. That's how fast it goes. We've got 5 minutes left here with Paul. Is it over, Paul?
Well, you know, I've been saying Arsenal are going to win the league. I'm not changing today, and I'm not saying that just to stick with it. I think they've done enough this year to show me that they can do it. I just hope Mikel doesn't mess around anymore. Get Havertz back where you had him, right? Get round pegs in round holes, and don't be that rest period between the games. You know, don't be afraid to say, right, 6 games left. The old saying is 6 cup finals. Arsenal can win the Premier League. Manchester City will slip up. They're going to slip up.
Okay, because I got this up for us.
Brighton, Tottenham, they're not easy games. They're not easy games at all. And I don't think Manchester City are as good at the back as they were. I don't. They're always going to score goals, but I don't think they are games you would say, it's a home run. They've got that. I don't see that, and I don't think it's a league this year that is throwing that up. It's so tight still. What I'd ask you is, if I said to you at the start of the season, would you take with 6 games to go, being this close to the top? I think, mate, Liverpool, finished 6th the season before? You got the Arsenal, right? City really are the ones that are not running away with it. They're not, and there's a reason why. In its results.
Okay, let me get so City, Brighton, Spurs were their bogey team when Conte was manager. Hasn't been the case so far, with their turn of managers. We've got two London derbies, Paul. We've got Man United as well. Liverpool. I think we've got the toughest schedule of the 3. And I just wanted to get a quick 5 from you when I say these teams out. If you see a win, loss, or draw. Wolves away for the Arsenal.
Win.
Chelsea home.
Win.
Spurs away.
Draw. Maybe a tie in that one.
Bournemouth home.
Win.
Man United away.
Win.
Everton home.
Win.
Okay. So Man City, you can see them slipping up against Brighton, but then they've got Forest, Wolves, Fulham, Spurs, West Ham. I don't see them dropping points. I don't.
West Ham have been up and down like a kite. They're capable. What you've got to look at is which team can sit in and park the bus and keep them out. Fulham, mixed bag as well. I mean, I just don't think this is over yet. Normally there's a twist in it. Nobody saw Liverpool's result. Nobody saw Arsenal's result. I don't care what anyone. Nobody saw that coming. What you normally get is the 3, don't you? Normally you'll get all 3 end up losing or drawing. So 2 lose and 1 draws. You normally get that in a season. It's unbelievable. It happens. But the interesting part for me is, what was the mentality of the players when they knew win and it's in our hands? That's a different pressure.
Yeah.
Maybe one they've not all had before.
Paul, do you think, only saying as a question for you, do you think Spurs would put in a shift against City? As a manager, your rivals are going to win a trophy and you have a say in what happens. Do those don't you still want to just win?
Yeah. I don't believe that for 1 minute.
Right.
I get it. I get that concept, but no, not a chance, because every Premier League game's a massive event, right? It's a showcase now, Premier League, and Tottenham losing heavily might be a good thing in that game. When a team loses heavily, sometimes then they pick it up, or there's a lot going on with this season. There's a lot of crazy results going on in the Premier League this year, and it's the first time in God knows how many years that it's been this tight, Soph. Right?
Yeah.
So it's about arousal levels. It's City's now. It's City's, but I don't think Pep has everything right in the club. I don't think it's as sound as what it may look. And I'm looking at the performances. I'm looking at they're not. I know they're there, but it's not like they were. they're not unbeatable. They're beatable.
Okay, let me get this, because I've got to get your take on Liverpool as well. Liverpool's schedule. Where do you see Liverpool slipping up more than City and Arsenal?
I do, and I think it's now kicking in that Klopp's going with the players. I think now where there's rumours now of who's coming in. Remember, some players have experience of playing with maybe that manager that's being talked about coming in, or other players calling players saying, there can be a lot of distractions with that. And I think that big loss at home and then that loss against Palace. Yeah, two horse race now, Arsenal and City.
How happy was Rebecca?
I'm happy too. I mean, I like Palace a lot. Steve Parish has been great with us, and I think he's took some stick this year unfairly as well. Mm-hmm. So I was delighted that they got that win. Brighty and that, they're great people, but it makes my weekend better if Palace. And you know what she said? She's like, this is why Teddy, this is why he doesn't support a City or a, Arsenal. I'm listening to it because when we get this, I'm like, God, do me a favour, how many weekends is he going to have? And then we was coming out of football the other day, and this Irish guy stopped me, and we was coming from training, and he said, "Oh, you're from England," and I won't do the Irish accent. Yes, and he looked and he said, "Jesus, that's going to be a heavy lift." With this, because Teddy had the Palace shirt on. I was like, he's hit the nail on the head. I said, yeah. I said, it's all mum, nothing to do with me. But I didn't tell him I didn't say I was Brentford, because that could be. I
love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Real quick fire answers here, and I'll let you go. Because Nick will kill me if I don't ask you. Would you keep Raya?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Yep.
If City win the league, is this officially the English Bundesliga? I don't think so. I think it's been really competitive this year in particular. Last year, we kind of ducked out early, but what's your take?
No, I think it's competitive, and I think that this has been healthy this year. It's still healthy now. There is a long way to go in this title race, and I think that Pep will be moving on soon, I think.
Yeah. Okay, and let's get your prediction, Paul. Do Arsenal bounce back against Bayern Munich in the Champions League on Wednesday?
Absolutely.
Wow, very definitive. And the title race is not over for you?
No, not in a million years.
All right, brilliant stuff.
It's game on now. It's just started. It's game on. They cannot affect what's gone before. It's finished. I'm doing the team talk now, Sophie. Don't be coming in with the long faces. We're not having it. I'd get you in. They need to get you in the dressing room, Sophie, and shut the door and let you have them for 20 minutes. You and Super Kev.
Oh, man, Super Kev for sure. Listen, I was really upset yesterday, Squaddies. I found it really hard. I'm in Cyprus with my family. And my sister, who's a Man United fan, hadn't heard from her all day. Did you enjoy the game? The old WhatsApps just started going and buzzing and everything. I was really down because I truly believed that this season was our season. Plus, Paul Buckle, you've been texting me and you've been geeing me up, and you've always felt, and you felt this from Christmas time when we spoke, that Arsenal would win the league. And I was just bitterly disappointed. I don't mind. I'm always mind losing. But it's the manner in which you lose. And in that second half, we let ourselves down. And I think the players let themselves down. I think the manager let himself down. And I hate to say this, but our fans have been superb, brilliant, especially our away fans. But they went very quiet in the second half. You could hear a pin drop in that place at times. And I think the fans were feeling the PTSD, and I don't blame them at all. But we really need to stick with our team, get behind our team, not give up just yet until it's mathematically impossible. And so I feel a little bit better than I did yesterday. And for me, it's not over until the fat referee blows the whistle.
Do you think the Arsenal fans didn't see what they wanted to see in terms of, you know, the fight or desperation, you know, the importance of the game? Did their body language not reflect that, Sophie? Do you think that's why the Arsenal fans were angry?
I think maybe for the first time, I think Arsenal fans were disappointed against West Ham and Fulham. Those two games were pretty bad. But at this point in the season, when we're at home and it's in our hands, I think, yes, Arsenal fans were very disappointed with the second half display because it was very uncharacteristic of this team. It's like we folded like a cheap lawn chair on Brighton Pier. And that's not been our DNA this season. And so I think they were very disappointed with that. And, you know, Richard, I know what you're saying about ballot system and stuff like that. No, there's been phenomenal atmospheres at home, ballot system or not. I know things have changed a little bit. But like Andrew says, I think we did. We gave up. It was a bit embarrassing. Seno says lack of desire. QA Guna agrees. But yeah, it wasn't great. And I think they felt that. And it was a bit disappointing considering this team has just been really fantastic since January. So yeah, that's a great point, Paul. Right, listen, you guys, go follow Buckle_Paul. He's given us his name backwards on the old Instagram. Paul's insights are phenomenal. The comments tonight, Paul, you've knocked it out the park. You definitely performed in the second half. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? Always brilliant stuff from you. What do you want to? What's your parting shot? 30 seconds for the squaddies. What do you want to leave them with, managerial style?
You know what? Get right behind them. Don't let these 6 games go without giving it every last bit you got in you. Whether you're going to watch the game or you're talking about the Arsenal, you know, stick with it. So at the end of these 6 games, you can turn around and say you're giving it everything you got, every last ounce you got, because everything that's gone has gone, as I said. And if the Arsenal players do that, right, and they take this moment and they get excited about this moment, you'll win it.
That's it, squaddies. I'm just going to leave it with the gaffer having the last words. And as Super Kev says, these are Super Kev's words. Tell your loved ones you love them. Don't forget to do that. At squaddies, take care. Don't forget to hit the like button on the way out. It's free. Love you lots. See you soon. Take care.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.